and welcome to my podcast. I'm Naura, Najwa, Asyifa, and today I'll be talking about a powerful and deeply important concept in post-colonial theory called Orientalism. You may have heard this term before, or maybe it sounds new, but either way, it's something that still affects the way we see the world today. This podcast is based on a short YouTube clip titled What is Orientalism, which introduces the ideas of the late Edward Said, a Palestinian and American scholar who changed how we think about culture, representation, and power. But don't worry, this isn't going to be a dry academic lecture. I'm going to break it down in a clear and conversational way with real-world examples, reflections, and even some critiques. Let's go into it. So, what is Orientalism? According to Edward Said, Orientalism is not just a field of study about the East, it's a framework, a way of thinking that the West has used to define, describe, and dominate the East. In simple terms, it's a collection of ideas, stereotypes, and cultural assumptions about the Orient, which includes places like Middle East, Asia, and North Africa. Said breaks it down into three meanings. First one is academic Orientalism. This is the study of Eastern theory by Western scholars, languages, histories, and traditions. Number two is imaginative Orientalism, and this includes the way the East is represented in art, literature, and media as exotic, mysterious, or backward. Number three is institutional Orientalism. This is how governments and institutions use those ideas to justify political control, colonization, and military infiltration. And here's the key idea: knowledge is power. When the West produces knowledge about the East, it's not neutral. It often reinforces dominations because when you define someone else, you also control how others see them. Well, Said's main argument is that Orientalism is a discourse system of representation that creates a binary between the civilized West and the barbaric East. It's a form of cultural imperialism, where the West constructs the East as the other, as inferior, irrational, emotional, and in need of Western guidance. This idea is heavily influenced by the philosopher Michael Foucault, who believed that discourse produces knowledge and knowledge is never separate from power. So when Europe or America studies or describe the Orient, they're not just observing, they're shaping how the world sees it, and often that image is distorted, romanticized, or demonized. So let's look at some examples to make this real. In Hollywood movies, Arabs are often portrayed as terrorists, all rich villains, or exotic belly dancers. Think of movies like Aladdin, Indiana Jones. These are not innocent stereotypes. They affect how people think and even how policies are made. In the fashion world, designers often use elements of Asian or Middle Eastern cultures. like turbans or kimono-style dresses, without respecting their origins. This is sometimes called cultural appropriation, and it stems from Orientalist thinking, taking exotic things out of context for Western consumption. Even yoga studios in the West can reflect Orientalism. They sometimes turn ancient spiritual practices into trendy fitness routines, stripping away the cultural and religious meanings. This might seem harmless, but they all come from the same root. A few of the is as something mysterious, primitive, or mystical, something to be discovered or used. Now, Orientalism is a powerful theory, but it's not without criticism. Some scholars argue that science theory is too one-sided. They say it makes all Western scholars look like colonizers or racists, when some genuinely wanted to understand the East. Others argue that Said didn't provide clear solutions. He showed the problem but didn't say how to fix it. Also, his focus is mostly on literature and doesn't cover areas like economics or genders in detail. Still, his works opened a major door. It forced academics, journalists, and regular people to think about how we represent others and who benefits from those representations. Orientalism is not just about colonial history. It's about how stereotypes continue today. In news media, the Middle East is still often portrayed as violent and chaotic. Asian countries are shown as either tech-obsessed, robots, or poor underdeveloped lands needing Western help. Immigration policies and foreign aid are sometimes based on the assumption that they need our help. These ideas are subtle but powerful, and they shape global politics, education, pop culture, even how we treat people from other backgrounds in daily life. Science theory helps us recognize this and to ask who is speaking, who gets to define who, and what are the consequences. When I first watched the clip, "What is Orientalism?" I realized how often I've seen those stereotypes without even noticing. I thought they were normal or harmless, but after learning about Said's ideas, I see things differently now. I started questioning how textbooks describes non-Western countries, or why certain cultures are always shown as exotic and uncivilized. It made me realize the importance of listening to people to tell their own stories in their own voices. And it reminded me that cultural respect means more than just liking someone's foods or fashions. It means understanding context, history, and power. Well, to sum up, Orientalism is not just an academic theory, it's a tool to understand how power works through representation. Edward Said's work helps us see the hidden message in books, movies, news, and even our own thinking. We all have a responsibility to question how cultures are portrayed and to create a world that values truth, equality, and mutual respect. Thank you so much for listening to my podcast. I hope it sparked some curiosity and critical thinking. If you enjoyed this, feel free to like, share, or leave a comment. I'm Naura Najwa Asyifa, and this has been What is Orientalism? See you in the next episode. Bye bye!